its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
So many people tell me that they would like to write a book, yet they never do, leaving their dream unfulfilled. Did you know that 9 out of every 10 people who start writing a book never finish it? Welcome to the Editor's Desk, where we explore the motivation, the struggles, and the work that goes into being one of those people who actually finishes writing their book. My name is Lynn Everard. I'm an author, an author coach, and self-publishing guide. And my goal is to help you understand what writers who complete their work go through so that you can understand this for yourself. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Editor's Desk. My name is Lynn Everard, and I'm the host of the Editor's Desk. It is a new show starting on August 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern, and it will be my pleasure to introduce and interview authors, people in the midst of their struggle, people who have completed the work of writing a book and having it published. As you heard in the intro, 9 out of every 10 people who start writing a book never finish it. And it's so important for all of us to get our story out. All of us have a message, a story that we would like to share, but we don't do it mostly because we're afraid to, mostly because what will someone think? Will someone reject us or criticize us or think poorly of us if we don't do it exactly the right way? So the Editor's Desk is a program, a show that was started several years ago and then went into hiatus. And a few weeks ago, Louise and I were here on a Friday afternoon, and we were part of the Brooklyn Cafe show talking about our new book together. And after that, Dawn and Freddie wanted to talk to me, and so we talked, and now we have this new show that we're starting. So if you are a budding author, if you've written one word, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you've written one word toward your book and you're actually planning on writing a book, you can start to call yourself an author. And once you do that, you're going to start feeling a whole lot better about the fact that you're finally getting your story out and you're finally sharing your message. And like I said, we all have a message to share. And I'm delighted to be able to be the next person to sit at the Editor's Desk and be able to interview some great guests and hear the stories of people who persevered even when it wasn't easy, even when they were filled with doubts about whether or not they could actually finish writing their book. And so if you haven't written your book yet, but you want to, follow us. Watch our show. You'll get some information, you'll get some insights, and you might get some nuggets that'll help you find the motivation that you need in order to be able to finally answer the call of your heart and write your book and then get it published. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Louise Gomez, my co-author, for the book that we just released, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the book is called The Reuniting of Two Past Lives and the Unveiling of the 12 Sacred Lessons. So Louise, would you like to tell everyone what it's about?
Absolutely. Let me just preface this with 2.5 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would be sitting where I am today, sharing this story, co-author of a book. I knew I always enjoyed writing. I always felt that creativity and was told by parents and teachers that I was a good writer, but I never in my wildest dreams imagined I was going to co-author a book. And so our book, The Reuniting of Two Past Lives and the Unveiling of the 12 Sacred Lessons, we had the most amazing revelation that we realized I knew actually, independently of Lynn, that I had a past life in Mexico over 500 years ago. I had a reading from somebody who had told me I had a past life. And it resonated with me because in my 20s, I had been to Mexico and I had a flash revelation. It was like a panic attack almost, that I knew. I told my boyfriend at the time, I said, I know I was here in Mexico a long time ago. And that always stood with me. And so I had this reading a couple years back, and somebody just told me I had a past life reading from she actually studied under Dr. Brian Weiss, who many of you know, who has taught past life regression. And she told me I had a past life in Mexico 500 years ago. I was making this particular king rich, all these land deals and buying and selling, and prominent in the community. And she just told me all these, just on and on about this past life. And I was curious. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I kind of was neutral. I wasn't super excited. I wasn't doubting it. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And so that stayed with me, and I've told no one about that reading. Nobody knew about that. And so lo and behold, Lynn and I had met each other from a transformational training series that we did together. And then we started we co-facilitated an intention group. And then lo and behold, Lynn starts coming and telling little by little about this past life he had in Mexico and 500 years ago. And so I'm like, okay, this is really interesting, because when we had this conversation over the phone, I'll never forget it. And I said, Lynn, I have to tell you something. I thought you were going to say you spent the weekend in jail in Mexico. And you said, well, remember, I was a king in another lifetime. And then it just like clicked, like the skies opened up, and I just flash flood of memories. Everything started coming to me. And so I just remember over that next week, I knew all the details that are in this book. I knew the title, I knew what I did, my role, and you knew you were a king. So we knew we had to write our story. And then so COVID came, and we decided to use our creativity, shut off the fear and use our creativity and write our story. And it's been an amazing journey. Even being in Barnes & Noble, maybe you want to tell them about our adventure, that our book is now available in Barnes & Noble. So it's just been mind-blowing, to say the least, mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the most beautiful things is that you heard Louise say that she had never written a book before this and really didn't know the experience. For me, I've been writing for 40 years. I'm an author coach. I guide people through writing their books. I guide people through completing their memoirs, just about anything. I'm the person that can help them get to the finish line. And of course, when we get to the finish line is when we feel really good about ourselves and really good about what we've accomplished. But one of the hallmarks that's marked the journey that Louise and I have been on for the past 2.5 years is this whole thing of synchronicity.
Wow.
We've experienced so many synchronicities. We talk about them in the beginning of the book, but it's like whatever force you believe in, if you call it God or the universe or source or whatever, that there's a force out there, there's a power out there that seems to have a role in helping to make things happen. And like I said, there were so many synchronicities. We probably talked about 10% of them in the book.
Yeah.
There were so many. We had page after page after page of notes that we'd taken on the various synchronicities we had in this life, in a 2.5-year period. So that's just a really powerful force to have behind you, helping push you along to get to the finish line.
And if I can just interrupt you real quick, I believe that when you're having these synchronicities in life, it's the universe's way of saying you're on the right path, keep going. I mean, that has been my experience, right? Keep going, you're on the right path, so.
Absolutely. So we published our book that came out on June 22nd.
Yeah.
And it's available on Amazon. And then we said, well, wouldn't it be great if it could be available at a local bookstore? And so we went out and talked to people at bookstores. And one of the bookstores we went to is the Barnes & Noble on Glades Road. And they told us what we needed to do. And so we went and we sent an email and got an email back from the manager. We told them our story. And lo and behold, they contact us and say, we have 3 of your books. We'd like you to come in and sign them, and they'll be for sale on the shelves in our bookstore. And about 3 weeks prior to that, we went into the store, took a proof copy of our book, went to the self-transformation section of the store, so that's where the book is, and put it on the shelf in roughly the spot we thought it might appear in when it did make it to Barnes & Noble. Now, at that point, we had no idea if that was actually going to happen or not.
Right.
But when it did happen, we signed the book, and then we gave them back to the store employee who took them up to the 2nd floor. We followed along. We had some friends filming and taking pictures with us. And then we watched as he started rearranging the books in that section to fit our book in according to where they had slotted it using the ISBN number in their system. And lo and behold, where our book ended up on the shelf was the exact spot
that we
had put it.
That's right.
So, like I said, whatever you want to call it, there's things happening out there in the world.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of that and just to know that something's happening.
Absolutely. And I believe a lot of it has to do, if I can back it up, with intention. One of the 12 sacred lessons, we talk about the power of intention. And I will tell you, during our experience of writing this book, we have consistently started each writing session, each time we've met, we started with a powerful intention of what it is that we want to create. And so that has unfolded in such a way that has landed us to where we are now. But I just feel that it's just declaring it to the universe, speaking it out loud, saying what you want. It's just a powerful, powerful thing. Very powerful.
Absolutely. Many of us have dreams of things we'd like to do in our lives. And when I tell people I'm an author coach, one of the first things that 90% of them say is, I thought about writing a book. Or, I've been working on a book for 5 years, or I've been working on a book for 10 years. But they just don't quite seem to get there. And, like I said before, it's part of it is fear of rejection. Part of it is maybe just not thinking that they're able to do it. But once you get into a space, like one of the things I do with my clients is I set them up and we do what's called the book planning session. We create a structure for them to write into, so it's not simply them just scribbling and then trying to turn that into a book. So everyone has their own ideas of what they're going to create for their book, whatever it's going to be. But if there's no structure to write into, then we all kind of get lost and we just sort of write and we ramble. And it's like going through a field. We make a lot of tracks, but we don't go anywhere.
Right.
So, just keep that in mind. If you're one of those people that would like to write a book, it really does take the commitment and dedication. Personally, I don't work with people unless I see that there's a real commitment.
Right.
Because I've had the experience of people who I've worked with, and 3 years later, they still haven't done anything. And so they're just, and it's not that they're bad or wrong, it's just that they're not ready. Sometimes they think they're ready when they're not ready, and so I try to help them understand if they're really ready or not. So in terms of the show, the guests that we will have won't just be authors of books. In some cases, we'll have people who have written screenplays, people who have written songs and had them published, people who have written movie scripts and poetry and other kinds of things. One of the things I hope to do is have some young people on, some teenagers who've been writing poetry and haven't had an outlet for it and would really like to be able to get some feedback from some adults and to be able to know that they also have what it takes, even though they're young. And so there's so many different directions that we can go with this show. And of course, I'm always going to be open to suggestions. So if there's a topic, or if you know someone who's written a book and about a particular topic, because what we're going to do, the format of the show is going to be that we'll have the topic for the show, because the topic will be close to the topic of the book. We'll have the author share the message of the book, the content of the book, and then I'll be asking them questions about their motivation, what drives them. Louise will be joining us from time to time and being able to share her experience as a new author. Because like we say with everything that we do, if we can do it, anybody else can.
Yes. And one of the things that I know that really supported me was making friends with that little gremlin in the mind that sometimes when you don't want to do something and you hear that little voice, and really learning to befriend it and just to love it, right? Because there's times where, you know the story. We knew the whole story. I knew exactly what happened, all the characters, the people, everything. Knowing it and writing it are totally two different things, right? So that journey of that we went through of writing that story was a transformative journey. It really allowed me to believe in myself and say, wow, I accomplished this. I mean, it's such a sense of accomplishment to be able to say, this was a creation from a memory and to a book. So it's a beautiful journey. I'm sure everybody has their own unique, journey, but mine was a very transformative one, for sure.
Absolutely. So there's a client that I'm working with right now. He's been a therapist for 50 years, and he'd never written a book, and he felt like maybe he was not going to write a book in this lifetime, that it just wasn't going to happen. And a mutual friend introduced us. I've been working with him on his book, and we are on track to be able to finish it. And what he told me was that finishing this book, getting this book out there, is a dream come true for him.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that I've worked with who have had the same response. There was a man a few years ago that I worked with in Delray Beach, and he'd already started his memoir, but we completed it. And I met with him every Tuesday afternoon. So if you're familiar with the book Tuesdays with Morrie, you'll understand that. But I literally met with him every Tuesday afternoon, and 2 weeks, he was 93, 2 weeks after we completed work on the book, 2 weeks after he saw the first actual physical specimen of the book, which is a powerful moment in anyone's life. Because you work on the book and all you see is the computer screen for months. But when you see your book in physical form like this, one of the things I tell all my clients is take pictures. Have someone take a video of you opening the box when you get it. That's what we did, right?
Special moment.
And because it is a special moment, and it's one you want to remember, because these moments of achievement in life, these moments of success can be so fleeting.
Yes.
And sometimes there's a long drought between them. So make sure that, it's so important we enjoy every single one of them. So this man, after we had completed his book and everything was done, and he knew his legacy, his memoir was secure, he passed away.
Wow.
And so it was really clear to me and clear to his sons who had hired me to work with him that this was the thing that was keeping him going.
Yes.
And when he finished his book, he finished the last thing he wanted to do in his life. And so we never know what we're going to find as we work with people. But these are the kinds of stories, the human interest things. One of the things I'm hoping to do is bring one of his sons on the show and talk about the experience of working with his dad on completing his memoir. And there'll be lots of other kinds of things, and that's what I'm looking for in guests. So if you know of someone who has written a book and had it published, and they might like to be a guest on the show, please have them get in touch with me, and I'll have a brief conversation with them and look at getting them slotted into the schedule. We'll do some special kinds of shows. I'm envisioning a show in November where we will talk about gifts for authors, gifts for writers, gifts for readers. Special kinds of gifts that people can get. And so it'll be really, really valuable information, because most of us don't know what to buy for the writers and the readers in our lives. We tend to buy them the same old thing, and they probably have 50 coffee cups, right? 49 of them in a cupboard somewhere in a box. So that's what we can look forward to. That's what you can look forward to when you join me on the show. And like I said, we are in the process now of looking for authors that we can interview and interact with and draw out their story, draw out what they did and how they managed to complete their work, to complete their book, so that they're able to leave their gift for humanity and their gift for posterity. So, like I said, I'm open. Any information that you have that you'd like to share, please feel free to get it to me. Anyone who's listening, same thing. We have a Facebook page for the show, and there'll be more information available there as well. So, Louise, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we close?
I mean, I just want to say this has been just an amazing experience to be able to create from a memory a story that we get to share with the world. It's just been such an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for it, not only for being able to have completed the book, but for how much I've evolved through the journey of writing the book, right? Because it's a process, and through that process, it's just been a beautiful evolution. So anybody who's done that knows that it's just at the end of the, at the goalpost, when you reach that, it's just a beautiful experience, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you so much.
There's one of the photos that we took at Barnes & Noble last Saturday. I captioned it. We were holding the book between us, and we were looking at each other, and I captioned it, "When you know what it took to get here."
Yes, that's right.
Right? That's what it really took. But I also want to talk to you, if you are a budding author, if you're someone who wants to write a book and you've never felt like you'd be able to do it, don't think about having to sit down and write a 250-page book, because whatever gremlins you have, they will be right there waiting to jump on that. They'll jump into it with both feet.
Yes.
But something that is very simple for people is a simple journaling practice. That it's a coach that I worked with that worked with me told me about something called morning pages, where the first thing when you wake up in the morning, you write 3 pages in a journal. And whatever is coming in through your mind.
Free flow, right?
Free flow writing.
Yeah.
And just write that. I have about 2,000 pages of journal entries that I did over the course of about 2.5 years. I still have them. They might become a book at some point in time. But always make sure that if you are serious about writing, that you always have something to write with and something to write on. Even if it's your phone, your tablet, whatever, a piece of paper still works, and a pen. And then you'll be able to capture those moments, those ideas. We all have brilliant ideas, but most of us forget about them when we see the next shiny object appear in front of us. But if we write it down, we're going to be okay, and we're going to be able to remember it. So we want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. Can't wait to interact with all of you on the show, The Editor's Desk, starting August 4th at 4 p.m. And both Louise and I wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Whether you've actually published a book or not, did you know that you are an author? You see, the author of your own life, creating your own unique story every day. Many of us never turn that into a book because we get trapped within our truth. So I encourage you to start today to write a journal, put your thoughts down, and you never know what might happen, because that journal today can become the book you've always wanted to write tomorrow. Join us next week, same time, for the next